Mute all. Okay, fine. All are muted now. If required, put it on chat. Any doubts if you come as we are moving through. Now, our most dangerous job on board is generally the risk is highest during anchoring, mooring, and towing operations. Now, let us take anchoring, mooring because towing is basically more applicable to tugs and all, and we are involved also, but normally the higher problem comes on anchoring, moorings. Towing is little bit part of our mooring activity. So, the statistics what I have seen, about one third accidents on the board have got something to do with anchoring, mooring, towing. So, when you are on board, now here also you are trained generically. You know our ship's model. You will be trained there to throw heaving line, pass the mooring rope, and heave the mooring rope on a winch, just to get you idea. And you will get opportunity maybe few times. But when you talk about ship, and especially like container ship for example, container ships is expected to call about 10 ports every month on average. You stay on ship for 6 months, that is 60 ports. 60 multiplied by 2, 120 mooring operations you will be attending. So you realize the percentage 120. So when you go on ship, first thing that is done when you board the ship is you are made familiarized with everything on board, including safety things. I mean, safety familiarization is one thing, and then you also familiarize yourself under somebody's guidance on mooring, then anchoring, the where are what all is included. The list is here, not limited, of course, because depending on if you may have specialist things. Now there are few videos on YouTube, but I must also warn you this part. Many of them have been made by enthusiastic people, but there can be small mistakes here and there. Like I noticed on one video, a person is referring, it's in Hindi or Urdu, one of the two, I don't know which language exactly, or mix. One of the thing he is mixing up is instead of calling it a booby hatch, he keeps on calling it skylight. Okay, so you will have something, but generally you might get idea of how it looks like. That is important, because unfortunately right now you have got not much of clue how things happen on ships and what are the sort of sizes of the equipment. They're huge. When you stand, you will realize the top end of the drum of the mooring winch or something is your shoulder height. So it is something else altogether. Okay. So first thing is, what you must be knowing is types of winches, windlasses, and their operation. You have got electric types, you have got hydraulic, though generally you will find most of them hydraulic today, but you can have electric one possible. Then their operation. The operation is not only just pulling the lever and there are small things there involved. How to lock it, what are the different controls, where are the controls for the pump, and then what about the remote one, how does the remote operate. Then there is something called automatic tension. That means it maintains the tension on the ropes by slacking itself or heaving itself. That is automatic operation. So all this knowledge you must have. Then very important part, where is emergency stop button? When something goes wrong, you have to use emergency stop, and that timing is very critical. You cannot be wasting time there, and generally you will find it is something uh, it is sort of enlarged one, means you can't miss it. It has got its own method of attracting you, and it is not small, it is big one. The switch will be a big one where you can just press it and everything will stop. It will trip off, and they are electric ones. so they stop pumps, so the all hydraulic systems stop. If it is full electric system, then it will trip off the circuits. But it's displayed in a manner that you can't miss it anytime. Then what sorts of ropes we use? Now it is easy to say, because what happens is we seem to be using certain ropes uh, on certain ships, but every rope has got its own lifespan. How much can you use it? You will say it, there are two ways of looking at it: exposure to UV and all, and so there is a shelf life. Another one is working life. Working life can be just one says, okay, every year I have to change this type. Why I am changing every year? Because I realize they are much cheaper for me. Or every 2 years. Fine. Why? Because I am on a bulk carrier. I call port once in 2 months. So my wear and tear on the rope is low. Then I don't want to invest excessive money. So I get the cheaper ones, which I know I have to change every 3 years because shelf life is 3 years. Fine. At the same time, you have got container ships calling 10 ports a month. So about 240 operations every year. So there they want ropes which will last them. So the choices of ropes and mooring wires, though there are very rarely mooring wires used except some tankers or something, but not so common today, because of certain issues with longshoremen. Longshoremen are the people who pick up your ropes and put them on the bits. So they find it difficult unless there is a powered system. Anyway, whichever types it is there, you must know them, what they are, what are their plus points and minus points. Like polypropylene ropes float on water, whereas nylon ropes and all sink in water. Depends on the material, and it's a very specialist job. Huh? It is no longer that simple char material ka naam le lo and everybody says this is this is that. No, it is more complex today, and safe working loads change, the weight ratios change. So you have to know what types of ropes you are using, and any special precautions are given about any one of them. Then where are the rollers, leads? The dollies, just forget that word, okay, because this is another word which is used. Basically, you should be concerned about rollers, where they are, because they guide you exactly. So location of everything should be there. And when this training is over, means somebody takes you and shows you how to operate everything, record is maintained that today so and so many people were taken and explain the whole mooring operations. Then there is something called potential risk of snapback, because in case anything breaks, it breaks with a whiplash effect, and that snapback can easily kill. Means there is no choice. If one is hit with that snapback, he won't even know he's dead. Simple. That way. Today we consider, earlier we used to mark them. You will find on a lot of models it is marked that this is snapback zone and all. But it can't be said 100% it will be snapback zone. So today we considered whole forecastle as a snapback zone. Whole forecastle means whole area. If you are there, you have to pay attention. And if you have got anything marked, the percentage chance of snapback in that zone is higher. But that doesn't mean that you are safe because you are just outside that marking. This is what you have to understand. Now, before we start mooring, what happens is when you prepare the ropes and all, because most of the times our lot of ropes are stored on the deck only, and some odd ropes, extra ropes to make fast, are stored inside the store. So you take them out, the crew takes them out and all, and when the duty officer, whosoever is responsible for that mooring, the forward or aft, normally midship, if it is there on tankers and all, one of the forward or aft takes charge, or sometime because you don't have extra officers. If you have got extra, then you may put somebody in charge in the middle, because the ship's length is high. So sometimes you have this issue that you also have got some ropes in the middle. But first, what duty officer does, he will, the one who is mooring in charge there, he will get the team together. There will be something like toolbox talk, because he gets instructions from the bridge. Yes, okay, mate, we will make fast with 4 headlines, 2 springs, and 2 breastropes. Fine. So he has got instructions 4, 2, 2. That is 8 ropes to be made fast. Now he may have 6 ropes on the drums. So he will work out which ropes will go to headline, which goes to breaststroke, which goes there, and where the spare ropes will be added. This all planning is done. He also checks that time that everybody is properly dressed, PPE is used, everybody is alert. Okay, nobody is drunk or anything. Everything will be, the briefing will be done to the team that this is how we are going to do. He will also check like heaving lines, if you have got messenger ropes, anything. Now, same thing happens with anchoring. Which anchor we are going to use, how are we going to drop it. Normal processes are repeated again and again. So like when we talk about anchor, like we say port anchor or starboard anchor, first thing. Next thing is you get instructions that lower anchor to the water level. That is what is the first stage we do. We lower it to the water level. By the time ship gets in position, the speed is dropped and ship is stopped. Then you are generally told, okay, let go anchor. Whereas sometimes the water is deep, because if you drop anchor and the ground is little rough type, okay, means harder, like there is a stone and all mixed up, you can damage the anchor. So sometimes we lower it. Okay, you get instructions, lower it to 1 shackle in water. That means 1 shackle mark must be in water. And then we say let go, so that drop is less. So whatever instructions are there, you first get it from bridge, then you explain it to your team. Make sure that sort of mentally simulate it. That yes, everything is ready. Whatever I need is available here. Like many places, when you drop anchor, there is an anchor buoy which must be tied to the anchor. So in case you lose anchor, it is easier to find that anchor and get it back. So it is there. So you have to ensure that everything is ready. Responsible person is in charge of the anchoring party. Then there is a communication. Now there are 2 types of communication. You get internal and external. Internal communication means you may have a talkback system which is like open intercom. You don't have to press anything and talk. You keep on talking and both sides you can hear. Another system, internal one, is where there is a loudspeaker and microphone. So you take microphone and talk. Then there is the external system like walkie-talkies. Now the danger involved in walkie-talkie is you use the common channels which are given for ship-to-ship use. But if you are in a busy place, others may be using the same channel and you can create confusion. So most of the times people prefer to use internal communication system. Then as usual, anchoring party will be inspected like what we saw up here. For all PPE is there, all the equipment is there, goggles, everything, because what happens when you drop anchor, a lot of dust flies. So everything is proper. Then there is another issue, because when you drop anchor, there is a lot of racket. Now the guy will be wearing mufflers to protect his ears, and others may be using it. Now what happens, the guy who is in charge, like that responsible officer, he has to have a visual communication system with the person who is handling the brake. Visual communication system will give him that idea, like when I say like this, means stop. Okay, then sometimes, okay, I show a fish, that means hold it. So there are systems which are decided on the board. Okay, you have got some of them given in manuals, but it depends on different nationalities and what they are comfortable with. So there can be, but generally more or less they are same. There can be small variations here and there. So this is important that when you start dropping anchor, there has to be visual communication between the person at the anchor, the one who is responsible officer and the person who is handling the brake. Now, adding to this, during my time also, we had system that we could handle anchor brakes from bridge. That means all somebody had to go forward. Okay, that is as a good precaution of a seamanship. Somebody standing there, anchor is ready, and then it is anchored from the bridge. You can drop directly from the bridge by just opening the brake. All the pump has to be on. Now that sort of a system is there. In that case, the communication will be internal, where the duty officer in charge of anchoring will be communicating with the bridge and telling. Now when you drop from the bridge, you also get indicator how many shackles cable has run out, etc., etc. Now this is ancient system, so many ships today will have the same system. And also remember one more factor which comes in picture for a person who is in charge. When you try to look down from the forecastle towards anchor cable, at times the wind is strong, you can't open your eyes. It is like riding motorcycle and without anything, and the wind becomes strong, you can't keep your eyes open. Same thing can happen there. So this is one of the factors the person who is in charge has to consider, that if his eyes are not protected, he may not be able to open them because of wind or dust. So he has to protect it. Another thing, when there is strong wind, you may try to talk, but that doesn't mean other side is hearing you, because their wind will cause a lot of interference and the clarity will drop down. So we use minimum words. We don't use long sentences, nothing. It's something like this conversation. Forward, forward here. Stand by, stand by. Let go, let go. Anchor is let go. Like that. You don't really give big sentences, nothing. In that case, you, even if you miss something, you are okay. Why? Because the expected commands are in sequence. Then snapback during anchoring is one of the extremely rarest of the cases, because chains will not snap back. Okay, it will be quite lot before anchor brakes will burn out and all. Then only you will reach that stage. Now another issue which comes if you are using VHF communication. Once upon a time you could recognize each other's voice. Now once it is coming over air and with interferences, you may not identify your own man's voice. Secondly, earlier we were dependent on the accent. Okay, Indian accent means apna aadmi hai. That is how. Today, Indians are all over. Our accents, or say Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, similar accents. So there is not much of difference. Now you may have few ships anchoring at the same time and you are using the same frequency. One is ready to anchor, other one is preparing to anchor. So she is not ready, but she is preparing. And suppose the wrong instructions go. I am telling person X, let go anchor. Okay, he said let go. Fine. But person Y hears it and Y ship is still moving at a speed. And if Y drops the anchor, there will be a catastrophic situation. That is the reason you identify the ship if you are using walkie-talkies. That means I will say, okay, Prabhudaya forward. So you will reply Prabhudaya forward. So every time we are using ship's name with every time we transmit anything, so that there is no confusion. We know we are talking to our man. That is the reason most of the captains will prefer to use internal systems, especially for anchoring. Especially moorings, normally it is little easier. Why? Because you can see things and all. So there is some logic there. But anchoring time can be confusing. Now, when you drop anchor, the forward person has to make sure that there is nothing under the bow, because accidents can happen if there is some boat, mooring boat, for example. Very often it happens that mooring boats are used. The boat comes there to take your rope and tow the rope to the berth where somebody else will pick it up and put it. So mooring boats are involved. So you have to check first that everything is clear, and just as a precaution. Other one is, we generally don't like to drop anchor from the housing position, because past experience says sometimes it may be jammed up there. So if it is jammed up, you will open the brake, you will open excessively, and suddenly it runs out, and then you try to stop it, it runs out too much. To avoid this, what we do is, first we walk back, means we put it in the gear, then we lower the anchor under power till it touches water. Then I tighten the brake, remove the windlass linkage, and then I am ready. That means now brake is holding the anchor. So that is walking back. And if it is a deep water, whole operation goes in walk back. If it is really deep water, because you can't drop the anchor from height, because when anchor drops and bangs on the seabed, it can get damaged if the height is too much. Because everything you have got limitation, no? Of course, sometimes a lot of stupid things have happened in the world. No? I remember when I was doing a chief officer's exam in Hong Kong, I heard about some Taiwanese chief officer. Ship had some problem, and ship was stopped at sea, container ship. So this Taiwanese chief officer decided he will mark the cable, shackle 1, shackle 2 and all, we use paint and all. He lowered it. He lowered 10 shackles or something in water, and then they could not heave it up, because whole anchor and chain was hanging. The weight was too much for windlass to heave up. That much I heard. Okay, means as usual, this story was over a glass of beer, and a guy was telling that how we are smart guys because we are Indians, and we were all Indians who were drinking. So as usual, it is hum smart hai, wo kitna gadha hai. But I don't know whether it's true or no. But I believe there are some stories like this. Okay. So this part, when the anchor, if you keep from stored position, you want to drop in emergency or something, it doesn't run out. You open the brake, anchor is not running out. Don't try to shake chain with hand or something. Believe me, you have got no strength at all to move the chain. Each link, I will say about 80% of you will not be able to lift up one link of a anchor chain. So there is no sense in trying to say, I will shake the chain, I will do this, nothing. In that case, you tighten the brake, put it in the gear and do it. Never mind, what can you do? Emergency is emergency, but still, you can't kill a person over emergency. Okay? Then, when you heave the anchor chain, when it is already anchored and now you start heaving up the anchor. Okay, there is one thing I must mention it, because there is a lot of misunderstanding on this. When you anchor, it is not the anchor hook which holds the ship. Anchor hook holds the cable, and when the chain is lying like this on the bed, this creates the resistance. and that is what actually holds the ship at anchorage position. Now anchorage position, ship is held up in position by the resistance of the chain, not because of anchor. Then if the weather is okay, current is okay, the forces are within control, she will hold there. If everything goes out of control, she will start dragging the anchor, in spite of having that resistance, because external forces are stronger than your holding force. That's it. But don't mix up, because this misunderstanding is very common. I just remember, so I thought I will tell you. Remember, it is anchor cable which holds the ship. Because if anchor is going to hold, how will you pick it up anyway? It will be stuck there. It happens once in a while that anchor gets stuck. You can't heave it up. In that case, we just cut the cable. And there is a spare anchor on ships. Always remember, there is one spare anchor on the ship. Okay. Now, cable, it comes in chain locker. That is where it is stored. And it should go automatically inside. Now, if the design is wrong, the cable starts piling up, like instead of sliding on the sides, starts piling up. So, it happened, means I have been on one ship, cadet ship, where Captain Lagu was also there. For heaving up anchor, we had to have some people there, and we had to do a lot of things. At times, we had a big wooden pole to push the chain on side. Then sometimes put the rope and pull so that it slides and all. It used to be a thing. Then we got it modified, and then it started working all right in dry docks. So normally it should store automatically. Okay, I'll just put it here so you will read it. Okay. Now, in case you have to enter anchor chain locker, it is always enclosed space. For variety of reasons, it is always enclosed space. You just don't go there like that. You will need a permit system and everything. I will never allow you as a captain to enter anchor chain locker. Not that easily. When chain is present there, no way. If the chain is inside, like piled up position, you are not going to enter. That's it. Because it may not be stable. Little rolling and chain will slide on the thing. If you want to experiment with it, take the string of beads and try to lower it and see how it keeps on sliding on this side. This side is unstable, and it may go there, and then sometimes little push and something collapses more. So that sort of stuff happens. And in case anything, only time we go in anchor chain locker when you have stretched out all the cable in dry docks and only the beater end is connected inside, and that time people go inside to coat it up again, because whatever, there is wear and tear of the coating. So people go inside after all the precautions and paint it up again and clean up. There is a muck and all, you clean it up. Now we come to the next part. Now that is anchoring, heaving up anchor. The safety precautions are basically, once you understand the operation, you know what is the hazard, and once you know the hazard, then you know the safety precautions. Now, making fast. The first thing, when you are going to port, normally, okay, most of the ships, you are going to make fast is a tug. Duty, we are discussing something else right now. So, you wait.
Sir, doubt.
Bol, what doubt?
Sir, don't even be under the anchor chain locker for inspection, like never.
No, you never enter anchor chain locker when chain is inside. Okay, it is full of chain, which is just sort of flaked in. It can always slide shift. We never. Only time you will ever enter anchor chain locker is in dry
Right
docks,
dock.
when all the chain is laid out on the dry dock flooring and only the
Hmm.
beater end is inside. That time for cleaning or something, because very often what happens is Dry docks charge you for all the activities. Whatever you want, they will do it, but they charge you. So sometimes what we say, we have got ship's crew, so why don't we do some small jobs to keep ship's crew busy, and also at times to show owners we are saving money and all. Because again, you have got limited crew. You may have 5-6 persons. So 2 persons can clean it, fine. In that case, you say, okay, this job we will do. That is the only time somebody will enter anchor chain locker. Otherwise, no. Okay.
Fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay, mooring and unmooring operations. Now, first thing what you are going to do is you are going to make fast the tug. That is standard process. Most of the ships when you are approaching the port. When pilot comes first, pilot will be on board. Now, pilot boats generally you don't make fast or something. It just comes alongside like this. Pilot climbs up and boat goes off. Finish. And then you heave up the pilot ladder up on deck and all, unless you have to keep it and you're going on other side alongside and all, depending on the situation. So don't think about it right now. But next thing will be the tugs will approach. Most of the ships will need 2 tugs minimum. Okay, again we are not getting into bigger ships and all. 2 tugs will be there. So first thing is you throw heaving line. Sometimes the tug will throw heaving line, but generally somebody who is on top throws the heaving line because it is easier. Throw heaving line, pick up that mooring rope. Now mooring rope you can't generally pick up with the hand, or sometimes you can, depending on where it is. If it has to be picked up with hand, you need sufficient number of people. That means at least 3 persons. So you lift it up, you put the eye there on the ship's bit, and then you signal that guy, okay, then tug adjusts its length of the rope what they need for pulling or pushing, whatever it is. The pushing time, they generally use the shorter lead. They just tie it up, because what happens is when you keep on pushing and suddenly you over push, that means you have to pull it back. That time they need to be tied up. That is the reason pushing time also tug is tied up, because we always assume your intentions may go plus minus. If it exceeds, then you have to put some sort of a brake in reverse way. That is it. So that is first thing you do. So that time you have to be careful. There should be proper communication between the tug and you. Bridge will tell you, okay, make fast the tug at so and so place. That's it. After that, you are locally in charge. You have to have communication with the tugboat. You can't be talking to tugboat via bridge. Okay, so most of the time it is visual communication, because different language difficulties. You may be in China, you may be in Indonesia. How will you do? So we generally have got common thing. When you do hand like this means pull, slack, either like this hold, or okay make fast. Like this, the few things which will work out all right. Tugboats and all, normally we don't use any other communication, because everybody is always watching visually. And when you do visually, there is no chance of miscommunication. Like walkie talkies, you might be talking to another party without realizing it. And as usual, all the safety precautions must be taken. If you are close to ship side, you have to have a lifeline tied up. Just about year ago, one Sri Lankan second officer died on a Maersk ship in Canada. It had something to do with the lashings. He was checking, some crew member was doing it, and lashing bridges end up almost on the ship side. He was there and he slipped and fell in water. Before anybody realized, I suppose he was in cold water, everything, but he died. So this is why lifelines are also important when you are working close to the ship side. Now area should be well illuminated, etc. Those are the standard things. Then if there is areas marked, like potential snapback zones, even though I say the whole deck is considered, but there may be some areas marked. In that case, crew members should be aware, whosoever is working there, what is that area. This is snapback, fine. Now this is one part, remember, the painting of the snapback area. Now this is where it is giving little bit controversial thing to this one. As far as I go, whole area is. But you may find on some ships somebody has marked it. That should be avoided. Now again it depends on the policy. Some companies may have policy, no, we will mark it. So here recommendation is there, don't mark it, because in that case you get false sense of security, as safe. No, whole area is unsafe. So just remember this part, especially if you get any question in your interviews. Because mooring safety and something question can be asked, but just mention this type of line that it can give a false sense of security, so it should be avoided. Guy will be impressed, that means you have read Code of Safe Working Practices. Now, enclosed mooring decks. What is enclosed mooring decks? You will find on ro-ro ships and container ships. Those are the most common ones, where the aft part of the ship has got enclosed, means you have got a roof on top. It is part of one of the decks where the mooring arrangements are. Generally forward, it is not the case generally. But aft, a large number of container ships, it is very common that your mooring arrangement is below deck. So those are the enclosed mooring decks. Have got additional hazards and additional precautions must be taken, because especially lighting and shadows. See, when you put a light, you always remember lights come with shadows. So shadows should not be covering anything, because that way you will not know what is happening. Heaving lines, you always have monkey fist. Why? There is a heavy weight and we call it monkey fist. Monkey's fist, it's actually we used to put one small nut or something inside, and then we do it like, tie like this, then we put it through. Try it one of the days. It is quite nice thing to make at home and keep it as a souvenir. Okay. So it now what happened, this is how we used to make it heavier, so you can throw heaving line. But today many places have banned it, because that monkey's fist has hit somebody on head or somewhere and person got hurt. So now what they are saying is, you make a pouch of canvas, put softer material inside and make it with little heavier, but it should be with the soft padding, and then throw it, and not weighing more than half a kilo. Okay, you don't use shackles, bolts, nuts, twist locks, anything to make it heavier and throw it. No, this is what, half a kilo weight maximum, and that is how you manage it. That is for normal moorings. Okay, special circumstances we bypass many things. Again, when you are going to do moorings anywhere, area must be clear. Now that should be applied everywhere. Clutter free, no slippery thing, whole area is non-skid. Okay, mooring ropes, everything is properly stored. Heaving lines, you will be surprised the discipline we have on ships. You will be really surprised. We are very disciplined on ships. Then that anti-slip surfaces, I told you, anti-skid surface is there. The special paint is there, adequately lit. And now this is very interesting, the way we have a lighting system. The whole forecastle can be very well lit, yet the light will not reflect on the bridge, because otherwise there is a visibility problem. So the light is down, which doesn't go on sides. So there is a proper illumination on the thing. You must use it. Now, as usual, all the equipment must be inspected regularly for defects. If anything found, it must be corrected in a proper manner. Any oil leaks from winches must be fixed up immediately, because if you are going to use There are two ways any oil leaks can come, oil leaks or lubricants coming down. One can be lubricant, grease and all which was used, and in hot climate grease might start melting and dropping down, and if you use excessive it will spread somewhere, make it slippery. Other one is the hydraulic fluid leaking from the winches because some gasket is gone or some bearing issues or something. Then fairly it's everything must be clean in good condition. Normally what happens when you are at sea, everything remains in good condition because there will be water sprays and all, so everything gets clean. But you make sure that if there is a excessive salt anywhere, wash it off with fresh water. Now drum ends should not be painted. Why? Because in case there are cracks, paints can hide cracks. Okay. All the fairlead rollers must move smoothly. And you always ensure, because what happens, no matter what you do, rollers, fairleads and all, even though many times they are cast iron and all, so that the corrosion is less, but there is always possibility of corrosion. So you always check that it is strong enough, it is not worn out or something. Especially older ships, you have to watch out more. Now, all the rollers, fairleads, everything, whatever we use, should be properly designed. It should be able to handle all the operational loads and conditions. So if I tie up something on the bit, it should not happen. There was a strong force and suddenly bit has gone flying. No, this is where everything is checked. Location is proper, that is okay, it comes with design. The welding seams, everything are checked. But all you have to see is that the ship gets older, that welding seams are okay, nothing is cracked, nothing is worn out, because what happens, the wear and tear was too much because of corrosion. That sort of stuff you have to watch out. Then the area is suitably strengthened. This comes in construction stage. You will notice under the bollards there is another plate welded to make it thicker. Mooring ropes, wires, everything must be in good condition. It's an expected. Ropes, everything is inspected regularly for external wear and tear, and also inside. Wire rope, if at all they are there, suitable lubricants should be used. And there are some combinations of wires and ropes together also. Don't be surprised if you find one. But not common everywhere. Some places you will find, means all experiments have been done. So you may find some products. Even though wires are more or less replaced by some sort of synthetic materials. Lubricants are applied wherever required, not just thrown all over. Wire should never be allowed to dry out. This dry out is, don't mix up this dry out. This drying out is not because wire got wet. Dry out here is the internal core lubrication should be always there. Wire can, internal, that core which is made out of natural fiber rope or maybe synthetic rope, must be wet with lubricant. That is this dry out. If there are splices, mooring ropes will have splices because that is how you make the eye. They must be checked properly. If they are using the wire ropes, you will have thimbles. Thimble is that metal one where you turn it around. Okay, then wire ropes are stored on the reels. They are also inspected. Now they are not used directly because what happens, there are layers like this. So if you pull it, you will damage the bottom one. So there is a storage drum and there is a tension drum, which you have seen on our model, ship's model. Now, what is the best way to tie up ship? Head rope means they should be heading in fore and aft direction. Breast rope means sideways, and back springs are going in stern direction. Same opposite on the mooring ropes. Now, they should be on the same level. Theoretically, yes. Practically, it doesn't work. Ships are much higher. So, you are working in 3 dimensions. So, you have to also pay attention to the dip. because if you start working out XYZ factors and spread the force, you will find the arrangements may not be sufficient. Then you have to use extra ropes. So these calculations are there, and there are many different methods used. On some specialist ships, they have got different type of moorings which go on level of the uh, berth, so that it is more efficient in holding. Now, if it is very short one, then what we do is we pass the rope and take it back on the ship, and then we heave it. There are something, but once you get it, our dealing right now is just understanding what is mooring and safety precautions. Now, the finding suitable leads is always challenging. Most of the ships, it is challenging because the ships differ in planning. Height is there, so you are dealing in 3 dimensions instead of dealing in 2 dimensions. And there is always a pre-planning. Normally, when you go to same berths, your location is exactly same. Container ships is more common. They go to exactly same berths. You should never stand in a bight of a rope. Means watch where you stand. You should not get tripped over a rope. You don't stand in a bight of a rope, so that somebody pulls and suddenly you will find. This stuff we find in movies. There is a smart guy hero puts the bite of the rope and the villain goes there, and then suddenly villain gets pulled up by leg. That is exactly what we are seeing here. But here it will not be simple thing. Here we are actually dealing with extremely dangerous situation. One bite, if somebody pulls, your bone can be in powder. Okay, that is why we are worried. If lines are under strain, you keep clear of the lines because you consider possibility of rope parting. Parting means breaking, and there will be snapback. So we identify danger areas, and that is where that thing comes. Like danger areas we know, but that is a percentage chance. Whole area is danger area. Some area in that some part will have higher risk, but nothing is safe. In case there is excessive strain, you need to slack. Now that is where some of the tricky things comes in. Normally what happens is, once upon a time we used to actually pull the ship alongside. Okay. Over the years, means it takes longer time obviously, and people are worried about losing time. So today most of the ships use the tugs. Tugs will actually put you in the slot. You tie up quickly, release the tug. Normally you release the tug when you have got in good weather, 2+1 means two headlines and one spring. Then you release the tug because tug is charging you as per time. But if weather is bad, you keep it till the time you are properly made fast, so that there is no extra strain. Because when you start pulling, you are trying to move a huge ship, so there is more stress on the ropes. Now snapback zones, we can keep on talking, but it depends on actually if you try it out. Okay, you will try it on a small rope which you will break on purpose and try to mark it. Difficult, but generally it will be done in computer simulators and mark if at all. But again, coming back to the same point, whole area is a snapback zone. Winch operator must have full view of activity. Generally he is standing on a pedestal from where he can see everything. Okay. Drum end, it can be a warping drum or it can be one of the storage drums, whatever. Storage means the tension drums, no issues. He should have the view. That's why even the remote positions are provided, because in remote positions he can see better. You will find most of the ships have got a remote control. That is, you change over from a local control to remote. From the one place you can handle all the winches. That's a remote one, and the idea is that If you are going to use it on warping drum, you need minimum 3 turns, and then you put the fourth one, fifth one. So make sure that it is not going to slip. If it slips, it can cause a bad accident. One jerk and you can have person flying off. Okay, then surging is you purposely slip off. When the load comes, that is surging. That is you have to make fast, and then you reduce number of turns so that when the load comes, you can slacken it. That is surging. Now synthetic rope, you don't do it. The reason, with the friction, the rope will get damaged because the heat will be produced and the rope fiber will get burnt and lose the properties. Then wire rope should not be laid across the fiber rope because there will be friction and one will get other. Like when you fly kites, what happens when the two ropes cross? The stronger one wins, another one loses. Same thing will happen here. So they are separated. Now, stoppers when we use, this is the temporarily you take the load and pass the rope to the bollard from winch. Natural fiber rope should be stoppered with natural fiber, synthetic with synthetic. Okay. Then there are different methods. You go across and then hold it to take the load. That is the preferred method. Once upon a time they used to use another one, like what you use, a chain stopper. Now chain stopper, when we say, check the reference always, because if it is a chain stopper, normally we use reference is for wire mooring ropes. That is where on wires we use chain stoppers to shift the load. Whereas if it is reference is to anchor, then you have got anchor chain stoppers. That is something that guillotine systems or something to hold the chain. But don't mix up, just make sure that you refer to the correct one. Okay, so that is where we finish our mooring stuff. We exceeded little bit, but I think we have finished with it nicely. Unless you have got any doubts, ask now. Any doubts? Quick, now we are
No,
out.
sir.
Huh? Yes, no. At least let me see some no's if you think you don't have doubts. On chat. Very good. Abdullah is there. That means in the class, not eating breakfast. I understand the problems, okay.